The FNCS Invitational prize pools have been shown and leaked. We're going to talk about the performances of all the pro players in the Elite Cup, including those of which have qualified to the Elite now finally. We'll talk about the Chrome Shotgun and the Chrome Assault Rifle buffs, and everything you need to know before the tournament today. So let us talk about the FNCS prize pool for the Invitational this season in November. Now, for those of you that don't know, that there is going to be an FNCS Invitational LAN in North Carolina in November 11th to the 12th, and the prize pool has just been shown by Janice on Twitter, and it goes as follows. First place is going to receive $200,000, second gets $140,000, third gets $120,000, fourth gets $90K, fifth gets $70K, sixth gets $60K, seventh gets $50K, eighth gets $40K, ninth gets $30,000, 10th gets $20,000, and then 11th gets $16,000. As you move down the list, you get $14,000 for 12th, $10,000 for 13th, $9,500 for 14th, and then $8,000 for 15th. And then you go down to $7,000, $6,000, $4,000, $3,000, $2,000, $1,500, and then $1,000 minimum that you're receiving for just attending the LAN itself. Now, we all knew that the prize pool for this Invitational itself wasn't the biggest. It is only $1 million, and I say that very lightly, only $1 million, because that's very big in terms of esports. Usually, the Worlds in League of Legends, for example, is $1 million prize pool, and that's over multiple teams and players in that esport. Whereas in Fortnite, it's just 100 different people that can be earning this money. So it's a big opportunity. The overarching reaction to the prize pool itself, even though we knew it was $1 million for a long time, has been a little bit negative, unfortunately, because essentially players don't feel like this is a worthy prize pool to be excited about. Now, a lot of it came from obviously the viewer side and the people on Twitter. I didn't see too many pro players actually being angry about how the prize pool is distributed, but I think what people need to realize for a tournament like this, it is basically a setup tournament before the future LANs of 2023. We have an inevitable World Cup coming at some point in the future in Fortnite, and this is the first LAN that we've had back since the pandemic. So people need to realize this is a test LAN. They have to spend a lot of money to fly out players. They spend a lot of money to house players in hotels, to bring family members, because a lot of people are underage as well, to provide food. There's a bunch of different stuff that Epic needs to provide in order to have these players attend this LAN event. So the prize pool being only $1 million isn't a great justification for people to be angry about. Now keep in mind, this prize pool is a little bit smaller than the EU FNCS prize pool, which is usually 1.3 million, but this is a massive opportunity for all of the other regions. For reference, NA East gets 160K for first place in the typical FNCS. NA West gets 45,000 for first place in their typical FNCS. So this is almost 4 times their prize pool in terms of first place itself. OC only gets 25,000, so this is 8 times their prize pool for first place if they happen to win the tournament. So it definitely isn't too shabby for a lot of these smaller regions, and it is going to be a great competition regardless of the prize pool itself, because what we care about isn't the prize pool as a viewer, we care about the competition and how it's going to play out at a LAN event. So that's what I'm going to be very excited about. The second thing that we need to talk about are the Elite Cup performances of this past Wednesday and how every single pro player did in the tournament itself. Now, day number 1 of the EU Elite Cup was basically won by Taste and Chapix with an incredible performance of 467 points. For reference, in order to qualify for the Elite Cup finals, they more than likely have to reach around 550 plus in order to be completely safe. So all they need on the second day is a decent performance, 100 points in total, which is basically done in one game. So they're basically almost guaranteed to qualify to the finals at this point. Funny enough, Taste and Chapix haven't really been playing much of the season. It looked like that last season they were looking to split as well. So it's good to see them succeed and showing off why they're still some of the best players in Europe, even without actually playing the game itself. We had PQ and Mappy in second, Clement and Deciptos in third, Perhawa and Harry in fourth with 391, 398, and then Q and Jody with 386. Savage in there in the top 10 as well with 362 points. And in 9th place, also looking very poised to do well. While Savage hasn't been streaming a lot, he's been working very hard and playing a bunch of practice. So we're seeing that definitely pay off in this situation, as his performances off stream have now been completely incredible. And the reason why he hasn't been streaming, as far as I know, is because he's been calming in Norwegian as well. So a big difference in the way that he usually played with Benji, for example, in English, and now doing super well. So it's good to see that. In terms of poor performances, we have to talk about Queasy and Venno. Out of 200 duos, they placed 124th place with 165 points in total. Now this, keep in mind, the only reason we're mentioning them is because this is a duo that I think could win the FNCS Invitational, and they're doing super badly right now in the Elite Cup. But it isn't a matter of specific skill issue. It's a matter of draw spot. If you take a look at the match history, they started their tournament with a 16 elimination win, which basically gets them 129 points of those 165 that they got in the entire tournament. And after that, it just went downhill. 43rd, 23rd, 50th, 33rd, 24th, 39th, 25th, 31st, and the 41st. So essentially, they're dying or spawn a bunch. So it looks like the draw spot of that Lagoon is being super contested in the Elite Cup. And when you only have 4 lobbies in total in these sort of tournaments, you're going to end up running into the same teams constantly in every single game. And you're just going to be contested every single game. So it looks like they need to step up the spawn fighting, and they got to find out something in order to fix that issue. Going into day number 2. But if anyone could do it, it is Queasy, who is the god of day 2. He's done it many times in the actual FNCSs, so he should have himself a better day number 2, hopefully. In terms of the Challenger Cup, we had Kezix and Forzador coming through with an insane performance. Now, you need to look at their average placement in this tournament. 5.14 over 7 games in total, with an average eliminations of 10. And that put them into first place with 458 points in total, which is absolutely ridiculous. Second came Pink and Anas with a 9.63 average placement, and then 454 points in total. So 2 of the teams that we mentioned in the last video basically have qualified now into Elite, luckily. So good for them to be able to pick up the pieces and the mistakes that they made in the Placement Cup and be able to qualify again. Another team that we mentioned that also qualified again now is Hen and Vortex. We thought that they had a good shoe in to qualify because of the point system as well. And with 4 points per elimination in the Elite Cup itself, it could be interesting to see how they'll be able to do with that big elimination points format, which definitely does favor them in this situation. And a special shout out to Archie, who has made Elite Cup as well. Definitely people's favorite and looking good so far this season. Moving down of the teams that didn't qualify, and the biggest one that I have to mention is Joe and Z Andy, who got themselves 321 points. So they were basically just a few points off of it, and they weren't actually able to capitalize and qualify to Elite, at least on this day. And that mainly was due to the way that they played. If you look at the match history, just a bunch of eliminations, not that much placement in an actual placement-oriented tournament with a 65 points per win and only 2 points per elimination. They got themselves an average placement of 21.7, some of the lowest amongst the top 100, which is absolutely horrible, and you really want to be playing late game. Ziani even made a tweet about it, that he's going to start streaming every single tournament to keep himself accountable so that he doesn't W key anymore. So hopefully we'll see better things from that duo, because that is a very good duo that has a bunch of potential, especially going into the FNC Invitational. They want the confidence going into that tournament, so they got to start doing well and playing the format, otherwise it's not going to work out. Last but not least, there was a massive change that Epic just implemented towards the Chrome weapons, and they go as followed. In order to upgrade your weapons into a better rarity, you essentially have to do less damage now. So the way that these weapons worked is they had a damage indicator. Once you reached a certain damage threshold, the weapon will be upgraded to a different status of weapon. So you'd go from gray to green to blue to purple to gold to mythic at some point. And now that number has changed. So now in order to go from uncommon, so gray, to rare, it now takes 100 damage in order to upgrade. From rare to epic is 200 damage instead of 500. From epic to legendary, so purple to legendary gold, is 400 instead of 850. And from legendary to mythic is 1200 damage in total. So 6 eliminations worth of damage just to get towards legendary. And we've seen that the legendary version of this assault rifle is absolutely ridiculous. It absolutely tears through builds. It one-shots builds almost. It is insane. So this is going to have a massive implication on the meta. and going into these Elite Cups today. And looking at the practice sessions that we saw yesterday in Noble, it looks like all the pros are picking it up, and it's going to make a big splash in terms of how the meta is going to shift. The shotgun itself is horrible. You don't want to pick up the shotgun because it does barely anything, but those assault rifles, oh boy, you are going to get beamed on rotates and lobby sprayed if you get yourself caught lacking. So keep that in mind. Keep those chrome splashes in hand to immediately counteract any sort of damage, because you're going to be in trouble if you get caught out and rotate too late with this weapon in the game. The last thing that was changed for these Everchrome burst rifles and shotguns was that the floor loot has been increased even further. So the availability of these weapons, the spawn rate has been brought up, meaning essentially you'll find them more in your games. Also, the uncommon, rare, epic, and legendary versions can now also all be found in chests. So, more than likely, it seems like Epic realized that nobody wanted to use these weapons because they felt pretty bad, or they weren't readily available because you could only find them in those chrome chests. They've now added it to every single chest in the game, which is basically going to saturate the loot pool with 2 more extra weapons. And the most important thing about that is that there's now 4 shotguns in total in the actual game when you're going to be opening a chest. So you definitely don't want to be getting the Everchrome shotgun, because that thing is absolutely horrible, and it is a massive change right before a very big tournament. So I'm not too happy about it. Like I said, you're saturating the loot pool, you're changing things that haven't been fully tested in terms of competitive, and after the first day of customs yesterday, it does seem that the assault rifle needs a big nerf or some sort of tweak into the damage towards walls, because it is utterly broken, especially when you go toward the mythic variant. So hopefully we'll see some changes made to the weapons itself, but you know, I like a different sort of meta, and as long as things keep changing slightly and it's not too broken, it makes the game more exciting. So that makes me excited to watch that tournament today. Speaking of the tournament today, I will be watching it all in replay mode today, watching your favorite pros. So if you haven't already, follow my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/CoachBoop. And that's going to be it for today. So if you haven't, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Goodbye.